We have tens of thousands of new firearms owners who hopefully head to the range on a regular basis to learn about their firearm. The problem is no one has really taught them the safety and etiquette rules of the range. Let's talk about that. Welcome to the Armed Citizen channel. My name is Mark and I do this video mentorship for all armed citizens, be they new or experienced. I talk about the things that I think no one else talks about. So please, like my videos, subscribe, and share them with people of all political persuasions. Let's get into the content. Thanks to the events of the past few years, there have been an explosion of new firearms owners. And the only place where many of these people can practice and train with live ammo is an indoor range. Thankfully, indoor ranges do not have the 100+ acre land requirements of outdoor ranges, so they can be found inside of city limits. For Memphis, we have 5 ranges in the tri-state Memphis Metroplex. One of them is this very place, the Gun Store and Range in beautiful Millington, Tennessee. If you ever come to see Elvis, get the best barbecue in the world, or see the Bass Pro Pyramid, come and see my friend Greg as well. This is my friend Greg. He is the owner and proprietor of the Gun Store and Range in Millington. Greg, why don't you tell us about your wonderful store here?
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity to give you a little incitement about a range and what we do. So we opened up March of 2024 that is, and we've been here ever since. We offer the opportunity to rent guns, use the range. We have memberships. We do education, which is a big thing in the firearm industry. We sell guns, we buy guns, we trade guns. So that's kind of the short of it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just about every time I go to one of the ranges in my area, I see people committing social and safety rules violations. I am sure 99% of these people do not know these rules or the whys that made them the rules in the first place. Greg has graciously offered me the use of his store and range for me today to walk around and discuss these rules of safety and etiquette as plainly and simply as possible. Everything I'm going to cover here is regarding the most likely rules of an indoor range. Your range may be different. Every range has their own rules, and if it's your first time or really any time at a range, please do not be afraid to ask the staff any questions you have about rules or policies. If the staff acts badly toward you for asking serious and honest questions, please go to another range. Outdoor ranges share most of the rules of safety and points of etiquette for indoor ranges, but outdoor ranges are just a little different. We might discuss them at a later point. So let's start at home. Before you pack your vehicle to head to the range, you need to be properly clothed. You want to be covered up to the base of your neck and have as little as possible vertical access into your clothing. This means a collared shirt is buttoned up, a t-shirt where the collar comes up to your throat, clothes like that. Please, no muscle man shirts. Ladies, no low cut blouses, tube tops, or anything like that. If you're wearing boots, have your pants or skirt go over them at least while at the range. Having upward facing openings in your clothing makes it easy for the very hot and just fired brass to find its way into these gaps. If you have never had a hot brass in your clothes before, it is painful and you will perform the hot brass dance. While it will be funny later, remember in that moment, while you're concentrating on that hot brass in your shirt, you are still holding that firearm and waving it around. This is the highest chance of having a negligent discharge and hurting yourself or someone else. So please, wear appropriate clothing. Here's a clip of an Instagram influencer dressed very inappropriately. She was dressed more for the pole than for the range. And she catches a hot brass in her hip high boot and then exhibits poor weapon control and trigger discipline, resulting in her negligently discharging into her own very expensive handbag. She's lucky it wasn't her foot or somebody else. For footwear, please, no sandals or other open-toed shoes. For the same reason, you don't want a hot brass landing on your foot. You could also step on and cut your foot on a piece of brass on the floor. I promise that unnecessary foot injury will replace your plans for the rest of the day with a trip to the ER for stitches in your toe. The range might, but not always, sell booties to somewhat protect your feet. Your weapons also need to be similarly clothed. Your weapons need to be enclosed in a case or in a holster on your person. If you walk into a gun store with an uncased or unholstered firearm in your hand, Greg and his staff will prudently surmise that you are there to forcibly deprive him of his cash and or inventory. Greg and his friendly staff will then act accordingly and help you end your day with more holes than what you started with. Greg is a great guy and really does not want to ventilate you, because not only is it bad for business, Greg has to pay out of his pocket for the hazmat crew to come and clean up your blood and guts. Load your magazines before you head out. Any kind of weapon handling, including loading magazines, is not cool on the sales floor before you go into the range. Come here with your mags loaded and either bring a bunch of magazines or reload them while in your lane. Weapons must have sights. You are here to practice precision and control. Do not do the gangster spray and pray. Aiming is important if you want the projectile to hit where you want it. Not having sights tells everyone here you don't care where your bullets go. When you get to the counter, ask what kind of ammunition is acceptable. Some ranges don't like steel-cased ammo. As a rule, indoor ranges do not like armor-piercing rounds, namely because they have a bad tendency to tear up the backstop, going through it instead of stopping at it. For shotguns, some ranges allow slug only, some are okay with buckshot or birdshot. You have to ask. Depending on the range equipment, buck or bird tears up the equipment. Some calibers are also unwelcome because they tend to go through the backstop instead of just stopping there. If this is your first time at this range, you must sign a liability waiver because ranges have to have insurance, and insurance companies have lawyers, and you have to renew this waiver annually. I have made a scene change back to my set because I want to make this particular point very clear. And this is something that you don't talk about in public because it makes people very uncomfortable. If you show up first time at a range and you come alone and you want to rent a weapon, I promise you will most likely be denied entry. When taken together, these three items are red flags that indicate a person in crisis who is looking to end their life. This happens, not often, but often enough that the range staff must always be vigilant. A couple years ago, one of my local ranges messed up and let a guy who had these red flags onto the range, and he ended his life there. This is also a very personal story. A close and personal friend of mine had this plan. The range staff knew him, so no red flags were raised. We both agree God saved him that day, as the weapon would not reliably fire. He made it through that moment of crisis and continues to live many years later, very thankful that the pistol would not work properly. I have done many things in my life. One of them was being a mental health counselor. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please seek help. The mental, emotional, and even physical pain a person in crisis experiences is overwhelming and drives them to do irrational things to stop the pain. Most people who attempt or complete a suicide do so because they see no other choice. If you're in a crisis or you know someone in a crisis, please reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Helpline at 800-273-8255 or 800-273-TALK. If you can't do 10 digits, reach out to the Suicide and Crisis Helpline 988, no matter where you are. Please consider adding some classes to your training queue. First I recommend is a first aid class. In this class, you learn how to stop the bleeding and keep them breathing if you encounter a person who's suffering a medical emergency until professional help arrives. CPR is the second class. If you're lucky, it's already included in the first aid class. The last class is mental health first aid. Like medical first aid, this training helps you recognize when someone is in a mental health crisis. You are taught to see the signs and how to help the person through the crisis until professional help arrives. I used to teach that class. I can't tell you how important having that knowledge really is. All right, let's get back to the range. If you are considering purchasing a new weapon, renting that weapon first is the best way to decide yes or no about it. You will have to use the range's ammo with their rentals, again, due to liability. You will have to leave your ID at the counter so Greg knows where to send the sheriff if you accidentally manage to take the weapon home with you. You will get your rental in a basket like this. Magazine ejected and action open, or a chamber flag. Keep it like that until you're in your lane on the range and return it to the counter the same way. You will also need PPE or personal protective equipment to get on the range. If you insist on wearing open-toed shoes, you will be asked to wear hospital-style booties to protect your feet. That's if the range has them. Or you can't go onto the range until you change your shoes. I really hate interrupting myself mid-tirade, but I just wanted to put in a real quick reminder to please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with all of your friends. That's how I grow this channel and get to more people. So, all right, back to myself. You will be required to wear eye protection while on the range if you don't wear glasses. Please always wear double hearing protection, both earplugs and ear muffs. And that goes for indoors or outdoors. I have seen many people walk onto a range with just one layer of hearing protection and run out a few seconds later because it is too loud for them. It is extremely loud indoors because the report of the weapon has nowhere to go and just keeps echoing off the walls. You can get permanent hearing loss in just a few seconds at an active range with inadequate hearing protection. The biggest etiquette point that I see people fail on are these doors right here. This is the door to the range, and these are special doors meant to blunt the sound. And depending upon the range, you have either 2 or 3 of these. So let's go on in. We open the first door. We step on in. We let the first door close behind us before we open the second door. And if there's a third door, we repeat that process. And you do that either going in or out. If both of those doors or all 3 of those doors are open at the same time, the sound of the range will get out to the sales floor unadulterated. In other words, full volume, and damage the hearing of the customers and the staff on the range floor. Now that we're on the range, let me introduce you to the person in the vest. They are the RSO or Range Safety Officer. Say hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
As far as authority goes on the firing line, there is God, and then there is the RSO. If you have an entitled attitude or think the rules don't apply to you, don't waste your time by stepping in here. You'll get a better outcome mouthing off to an aircraft flight crew than you will getting all up in the grill of an RSO. Not obeying a flight crew gets you time behind bars. Disobeying the RSO can lead to you or someone else being hurt or worse. If the RSO tells you to do something, do it immediately. Asking questions later is great as long as you follow the commands at that moment. In general, the RSO is here to let you be. If you break a safety rule, you will probably get a warning the first time. If you repeat breaking rules, express an attitude about having to follow the rules, use unapproved ammo or weapons, or disrespect the RSO, you will be told to leave and not come back. The RSO is there to keep you and everyone else on the range safe. If you have a weapon malfunction or lane equipment problem, get the attention of the RSO and they will help you. That's part of why they are there. If you hear the command, cease fire, stop what you're doing immediately. Set your firearm down, back away from it, and be ready to help out. Cease fire on an open range like this is only called because someone is hurt or is about to be hurt. Everyone stops shooting so the RSO and others can communicate effectively. They can't if they're having to shout over gunfire. Anyone, including you, can call a ceasefire. Just remember, you should call it only if someone is hurt or about to be hurt. If you're unsure, call it anyway. I would rather you overreact that way than not call it when it's needed. If you're in a class or other organized event on a range like this, cease fire is an expected command and not an emergency. Keep that in mind as well. Do not bring food or drinks into the range. There are a lot of nasty particulates in the air while people are shooting that will settle on and contaminate your food or drink. Now that we are in the lane, let's talk about the rules for here. First of all, the 4 rules of firearm safety always apply. Always treat a weapon as if it's loaded. Never point a weapon at anything you aren't willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger till you're ready to fire, and be sure of your target and what's around it. Operation of your lane is straightforward. You will either have a controller where you can set the exact distance you want the target to be away from you, or in this case, just a back and forth switch, and you eyeball it with the ranges painted on the floor. Please be kind to the equipment. If you shoot it up, you will be immediately asked to leave the range without refund, and in many cases, be presented with a bill to repair it. Not long ago, I had a husband and wife couple in the next lane. He was a mountain of muscle. She was a very petite woman. He was trying to teach her firearm use, and at one point put a full-sized Remington 870 12-gauge shotgun in her hands. She was totally unprepared for that recoil, to the point her shot went so wild it shot down the equipment on my lane. They had to immediately leave the range, and I finished my time in their lane. Now we can go over the range-specific rules. The first 3 rules in this list I will cover are 0 exception rules. As in, do not break these rules, ever. You might get away with breaking these rules a couple of times, but eventually you will get hurt, and hopefully you will live to regret it. The first is no flesh past the firing line, which is the edge of the table. You must act like there is a force field that prevents you from going through it, but your guns and bullets can go through. If something falls forward of the line, such as a magazine, let the RSO know and get a sweeper to reach under the table to retrieve it. Do not stick your head over the edge of the table to see where it is. Crouch down and look from underneath if you can. These ranges don't have that. You do not want to stick your head past the firing line to look for that magazine you dropped. As luck would have it, your face is now 2 feet away from an AR with a flash suppressor, which will bathe that side of your face and head in fire and a shockwave, then pepper your skin with burning powder particles. Let's not do that. The second rule is weapons are always pointed down the range toward the backstop. If you're removing or replacing a long gun from its case, you do it in the confines of the lane. You keep the muzzle end of the case downrange, open the case, and remove the weapon or replace it. I've seen people use the RSO's table to uncase a long gun, and they end up flagging half the people on the range with their muzzle on the way to the lane. Third rule, no uncased or unholstered weapons outside of the lane. If you're with friends and have several lanes, you might want a buddy to try one of your weapons. You either let him try it in your lane, or you make the weapon safe. Put it in the case you brought it in, close the case, and then move it. If you brought it in a holster, please holster it. Walk over and unholster it. We want to be safe at all times, and having an uncased weapon out of the lane is a bad idea. Not that you're going to be unsafe, however, a blurring of that line will quickly degenerate to a point where a negligent discharge and an injury is a certainty. The next rules can have some flexibility. It depends upon the range policies, your actions and attitude on the range, and how much discretion the RSO is allowed to have. Fourth rule, no rapid fire, which is defined as more than one shot per second. Again, be an adult here. Doing a mag dump with a 100-round magazine is always a no-no. However, if you want to do a bill drill, say to the RSO, hey, I want to do a bill drill and I need an okay for 6 rapid fire shots from you before I do it. If the RSO gives the okay, be thankful. They will most likely stand close so they can see you and observe how you conduct yourself. Your conduct will determine a future yes or no on more rapid fires. If the RSO says no, be thankful. Don't pout, shout, or get butthurt, because the decision was probably made above the RSO and they have no flexibility in the matter. If the RSO says no and you do it anyway, you could be asked to leave. Also consider the number of other shooters on the range at that moment as well. If you're the only shooter, this is only 6 lanes here. If you're the only shooter, your chance of approval approaches 100% if the RSO has discretion. If the range is full, you probably won't get the okay, because then some entitled Chad a couple of lanes over will want to mag dump because you did. That's the best way to put the kibosh on future speed runs. Fifth rule, don't draw and shoot from the holster without clear permission from the facility and letting the RSO know beforehand. Usually this is an extremely hard no, because this is a liability and safety issue that most ranges refuse to take. Range owners do not want you to be the next Tex Grubner on their range.
I just shot myself.
Count yourself lucky if the range policy is flexible enough and you are trusted enough to allow you to do so. You might have to take a class to get certified and show a card to the RSO that you've taken the class. You really shouldn't have to do draw and fire at the range in the first place, because you should be getting your draw and fire reps in your dry fire sessions. Greg gave me a cold range on today just so we can go forward of the firing line and I can show you some things. Let's go down range. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a walk this side of the firing line so you can see, because you don't normally get to see this kind of stuff. So you can obviously see that there are lines painted on the floor so you can see what ranges you're at. But to show you the average accuracy, all of these are people who have shot the wall because they don't aim very well. This is why this is supposed to be a place of precision. If you're shooting targets relatively close, you also have to be aware of the angle that you're going. So as we walk down here a little bit more, you will see on the floor divots and marks in the concrete where people have bounced a round off of the floor. And this continues. In fact, the more we see of these, is the closer we get to the backstop. Now, if we look up here, this is all of the people who have shot so high that they hit this armored plate to protect the ducting in the back. Now, this is the actual backstop, and this is nothing more than pieces of rubber, which are knocked down every night or every time you shoot, and then the staff will come at night after the range closes and shovel all this back up so it don't fall. And all these pieces started like that mat up there. They lay all these mats down and they get broken up because they're getting shot at. And then once a year or so, which just happened for Greg, is they will bring a machine in here that will scoop all this up and separate the rubber from the bullets, and Greg sells the bullets, the lead and the copper casings to someone to help pay for the cleaning of the range. Now that we're back in our lane, let's talk about how to avoid you adding divots to the walls, floor, and ceiling. When I come, I buy one big target and then I tape my targets to it. This makes sure I'm always pointed at the backstop. Remember firearm rule number 4, beware of what is around and beyond your target. When aiming at your target, be sure you can see the backstop if the target wasn't there. If you look, the top and bottom of my target is in front of the backstop. Look to the left or right if you're not sure. You don't want to put holes in the floor or the overhead. Greg has a sensible rule. Don't shoot at the top third of targets at less than 10 yards. Other ranges have a line on their cardboard holder that says, "We charge for every hole above this line." Do you notice all the holes? Now that we're done shooting, let's go ahead and head out back to the sales floor. And we're going to go exactly out the way we came in. We're going to open the first door. We're going to walk in. We're going to let it close behind us. And then we open the second door. Now, before you pack up to move along with the rest of your day, what you really want to do is go to the restroom, not only because you have to, but the restroom will have something like this. This is D-lead soap. Wash your hands and your forearms with this. This is meant to get the lead particles and the powder residue off of your hands. You really need to do that before you eat, drink, or smoke, because you don't want to introduce that stuff internally into your system. Carrying some anti-lead hand wipes in your range bag is also always a great idea if the range doesn't have any D-lead soap. So there you go. I have shown you most of the common rules and etiquette you need to be safe on the range. I do have one charge for you. If you see someone doing something wrong or dangerous, please take a moment to educate them, not berate them. Approach the other person how you would want to be approached if you just screwed up and didn't know that you messed up. You'll get a better response from "Excuse me, I saw you do something dangerous on the range," explain the action, and say, "That could get you or someone else hurt. Please try not to do that in the future. I guarantee you'll get pushback if you come up to the other person and go, "Yo, jerkbag, you just flagged me with your muzzle in there. Don't do it again unless you want me to return the favor." In closing, ranges like the Gun Store and Range here in Millington, Tennessee want you to come and have a wonderful, positive, productive, and safe experience. They don't want you or anybody else getting carted off the range on a gurney. To ensure everyone walks off the range unhurt, there are rules concerning courtesy and safety that must be adhered to so everyone has a good time. You can take what I've told you to heart so you can have an enjoyable time, or you can ignore the rules and be asked to leave and not come back. Your choice. And thank you one more time to Greg, who is the owner and proprietor of this wonderful location. Please come and visit him. Y'all have yourselves a wonderful day. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. Just one last request that you like and subscribe and share with your friends, and send me some feedback on the way so I know where to go and what I might have messed up. Y'all have yourselves a wonderful day.